example number 4 here, multiply. Again, we're just going to be doing the same thing that we did in the previous 2 videos. We're going to be multiplying the distributive method, kind of like that. And we're going to be multiplying the numbers and then kind of adding the exponents. That's really all there is to it. So there's a 1 in there. Multiplying this times this, 2 times the 1 is 2, and then you can add the exponents to get an x4. Then I can go like that. Multiply the numbers, 2 times the 3 is going to be a positive 6, and then you can add the exponents. So x squared and x is going to be x cubed. And then here, 2 times negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and then you can add the exponents. There's an x squared, there's nothing to add there. And so we get 2x4 plus 6x cubed minus 2x squared. The x's are in descending order. So that works. And if you look at the pattern here, this one's an x squared, this one's an x, this is nothing. So there is a descending order pattern there, and that's what we end up having as a result. Okay, moving on here. There's not much more. There's more letters, but really this doesn't change too much. You multiply the numbers, so negative 2 times 1. If I multiply those, you get negative 2, and then you just add the letters. So x squared and x gets you an x cubed. There's one x and there's 2 there. Yeah, x cubed, and then there's just a y. There's a single y, so we don't have to worry about adding y's because there's only one of them. Here you can multiply the numbers. Negative 2 times the positive 2 is going to be negative 4. There's an x and an x to get me an x squared, a y and a y to get me a y squared. And lastly, there's there, but this is a 1, remember that. So negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. There's just a single x, and then y and y squared is going to be a y cubed. And that's all there is to something like that. So again, just multiply the letters, and then you kind of add the variables, add the exponents for every variable. So in this case, there was adding for x and adding for y. And C looks super complicated, but it's the exact same thing. So multiply those. Negative 2 times 1 is going to be negative 2. There's an x squared and an x squared, so I got 4 of them, and then there's just a y. And then I can multiply these. So the number in front, the coefficient, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. There's an x2 and a single x for a total of x3. There's a y and another y for a total of 2 of them, or a y squared. And lastly, negative 2 times negative 4 is going to be a positive 8. There's an x2 and an x for an x3, and a y and another 2 y's for a total of y3. And so that is it. That is multiplying. We call those monomials times a polynomial. And I'll just zoom into this first one here. The next one will be, I think, a binomial times a binomial. There's 4 multiplications in it, but it's relatively straightforward. You should have a really good understanding of this stuff, though. All of these, like, you should really be able to do A and B and C. And if you can understand that, then moving on to the more difficult stuff, or the binomial times binomial, won't seem like so much of a stretch.